In 1992, I was in command of the 1st Marine Division. We were resting, recoiling, and relishing a victory in Desert Storm, and that went on in New Year's into the year of 1992. April 30th, 1992, Rodney King trial. We found ourselves in the middle of Compton and Downey, and the police couldn't communicate with each other. None of the police departments down there were interoperable, and we found ourselves in charge of the operation. Our chain of command back was at the Pentagon, and we had Marines enforcing the law and confronting American civilians. And I said, that should never happen. We have got to get the defense support of civilian authorities so that it doesn't happen.
One of the things that I love the most about Fleet Week, as General Myatt alluded to, is the humanitarian assistance disaster relief component of Fleet Week. It's really important that we partner with the military, that we learn to speak the same language, that we know the jargon that you use, you know the jargon we emergency managers use, our first responders, police and fire. If we don't get to know each other now, when the big one hits, and we're going to be relying on you to come and support us, it could be chaos. But I don't think it's going to be, because for the last 5 years we have exercised, we have trained together, we have gotten to know each other, and I think that it is critical for all of our missions that we continue to do this, that we continue to practice and get better at it. Because in fact, we do know the big one is going to hit in San Francisco, and we are going to be relying on each and every one of you to come to our support. We know we can't do it alone. Much of what we do in our business is trying to get our citizens, our residents, and our visitors prepared. Every day we reach out, and that's our mission. But you are already prepared. You are going to come in and not take over, as General Myatt said in the Rodney King incident, but be our partners and help us when we need it the most.
Your Coast Guard is somewhat uniquely positioned in that we have day-to-day responsibilities, authorities, and relationships that really help us when we have to respond to a crisis. Some of those authorities, from pre-designated federal on-scene coordinator for oil and hazardous materials spills, from federal maritime security coordinator for security incidents, from search and rescue mission coordinator, from officer in charge marine inspection and captain of the port, which are authorities that have to do with facilities, commerce, vessels coming in. We do have a sort of different suite, and we've been able to leverage those responsibilities from day to day to what we do in crises, from Superstorm Sandy to Hurricane Katrina, from the Deepwater Horizon Gulf response to the earthquakes in Haiti.
Expeditionary warfare, being ready today to go, is kind of our mindset. You know, we're not planning to go 6-7 months. I mean, we do that when we know we have to go somewhere. But the mindset that's been instilled in us is that we got to be ready today. Grab your ruck and go. And I think that's very relevant to a DISCA or HADR kind of response. We know whether it's overseas or in CONUS, we're just a support role. We're supporting somebody else, whether it's a nation, an ambassador, or the government, or local government, or incident response commander. We provide certain things, certain capabilities, certain niches early on in a disaster when tasked upon that I think are pretty incredible. Some things are out there that were mentioned already. We talked about our medical capability.
When I took command in June of 2013, this was my first official duty to attend one of these events in 2013. Then when I looked out in the audience, I knew no one. Now here in 2014, almost a year later, I know over half of you. It starts there. It does begin with relationships. It ends with trust. So I want to say this to you. When you call upon us, rest assured that whatever we have at our disposal, we will provide it to you. There are other things out there that will distract us and detract us from our capabilities and the things that we need to do, but there's nothing more important than taking care of the homeland.
And what we're doing right now is drawing in as many of the civil authorities as we can so that when we talk about this, because the Bay Area earthquake is a 14-county problem, I think we're up over 17 million people right now, so it is going to be one heck of a challenge. And as a group, and since the civil authorities are in the lead for this, I thank you very much for being here. I've tried to make this relevant to both the DISCA novices, but also relevant to those folks in the room that actually have a great deal of experience. So that's my goal. Today I'm going to start off with some recent events that matter to us, that have shaped the DISCA problem, if you will, and then I'm going to go into some DoD support of civil authorities basics. And then we're going to move into some command and control slides, lots of lines, lots of boxes. So I hope I've made those as simple as I can. We're going to talk a little bit about liaison, because it's the liaison that we establish that gathers the tasks that come to the department. And the establishment of that liaison is essential at all levels for success here. There are three types of DoD support of civil authority. The most common form of DISCA are mutual aid agreements. These are agreements that are between local commanders, normally an installation commander, and local authorities. They're based on pre-coordinated conditions. They normally deal with fire, emergency medical services, hazardous material response, and public safety. The second form of DISCA is based on a commander's immediate response authority. Commanders have the authority to provide, all commanders have the authority to provide assistance if there is a request for assistance from a local civil authority, a local mayor, a local county administrator, are examples. This activity is normally of short duration and is limited to circumstances that involve saving lives, prevent human suffering, and preventing or mitigating great property loss. How does the military tie into the emergency management structure during response? This is a 5-slide build, so hang on tight. It starts off very easily. This is a lift from the California catastrophic incident base plan. It's been adjusted for some new terminology. It shows your local incident commanders in the lower right-hand corner. It then shows area emergency operations centers and mutual aid coordination going on in the Bay Area. Remember, we have 14 counties. In the center, we have the governor, the Unified Coordination Group, and the Unified Coordination Staff. For simplicity, the governor establishes your priorities, the Unified Coordination Group sets the objectives, and the coordinating staff determine tasks. Events like Fleet Week go a long way to developing the lines of communication so that we can begin considering that. Exercises, plans, etc.
And it's appropriate that we're here. As mentioned, we've got 46 ships in the Ready Reserve Force. We've got 2 ships that support the Missile Defense Agency. And we also have 7 training vessels that we support the training of our merchant marine officers around the country. So 55 ships in total, 20 of them are located here on the West Coast. The union of purpose is not all it takes. Without voracious communication and connected action, the union of purpose can be wasted. This was a lesson Merritt applied to our relief efforts with Hurricanes Rita and Sandy, and it's a lesson that we here today should take to heart. As government leaders, when we consider responding to a major earthquake in San Francisco or any other West Coast major population center, we must plan for implementing a unified task force comprised of many organizations operating under a range of authorities and capacities. Realistically, there are potential gaps in a large, complex operation, such as the Northern California earthquake response, that would require an ad hoc logistics over the shore and other non-standard cargo operations. One positive aspect I'd like to mention is that our Sealift partners know how to work around a military-like organization, and one in a war-torn environment. And I'm talking about our commercial Sealift industry under U.S. flag. And at times when they're operating in a DoD environment, it looks very much like a disaster environment. And they're very good at it. And given the effectiveness of NIMS and ICS as a common framework, there may still be possible gaps in the mil to civ and the government-to-government commercial interfaces, both in hardware connectors, acquisition tools, and in command and control requirements. If the disaster response scenario requires a combined task force comprised of military, civil, and commercial organizations, then those working interfaces must be understood to ensure maximum effectiveness. For example, a combined task force might be tasked with delivering FEMA cargo discharged via Navy waterborne assets from commercial vessels to a state-controlled facility, like what we had in Haiti. More specifically, we may wish to look at this in terms of hardware, plans, policy, and procedures. And with regards to hardware, we need to address the intermodal connectors between logistics carriers, FEMA palletized cargo to an ISO container, lift on, lift off, or roll on, roll off vessels to various LCUs, barges, and et cetera. And also vertical replenishment without a certified flight deck that you may need to work off of. Urgent ad hoc vessel loading planning with respect to stability and hazmat carriage rules. Looking at communication, we see a range of variations in radio frequencies, data sharing and management tools, such as in Department we use Web EOC, Coast Guard Common Assessment and Reporting Tool, the DoD Joint Operations Execution System, JOPS, just to name a few. We've got email protocols, reporting battle rhythms, all deserve an involved examination. And of course, we need to consider ship and service craft transfer connections between response assets like sustainment or sustenance, fueling, potable water, electrical power, sewage, and special gear for operating in a contaminated environment, and also weapons and ammo storage. There are many questions we need to review regarding plans, policies, and procedures. Have the past four and the points of delivery been reviewed by representatives of all participating agencies in the commercial industry? Are there fiscal and contract transactions that should be exercised to fully expose realities of defense support to civil authorities administration for a massive and varied combined task force? Going forward, the response planning process must leverage the many existing local plans and committee work and fully utilize the great work already completed by the Area Maritime Security Committees, the Maritime Transportation System Recovery Units, the MTSRUs, National Port Readiness Network, Harbor Safety Committees, and others. And operations must account for civil or commercial restrictions and possible waterfront workforce issues. We must be prepared to convey assurances of workplace safety conditions. And although there is not a precise route we need to follow, I think we all agree that we need to better support our people-to-people exchanges and partnerships. We need to foster common outlooks and collaboration on the challenges and opportunities before us. We need to encourage and facilitate increasing cross-organizational involvement and consult with each other to take the appropriate measures to achieve our common objectives. So think maritime for volume and efficiency of intermodal movement. Think about industry plans for disruption and recovery operations. The prompt recovery of the domestic and international marine transportation system is essential for the nation's economy and security and people. Interagency engagement such as these events helps to make sure that the first time we're talking isn't in a disaster. Support to the transportation infrastructure needs to be examined. And I don't mean this as a campaign pitch because I'm not running for anything, but economic recovery and jobs matter a whole lot in disaster response, and that's part of what we do. Finally, Semper Gumby, remain flexible. For what we did last time may require a very different approach going forward in the future. So I think that really sort of in a sense of overall awareness of how maritime matters for disaster response. And when I use maritime, I mean that broadly. There's military, there's government maritime, and then there's commercial industry in that. So thinking outside of the box and recognizing that you're going to need transportation, and probably 9 out of 10 times, you're going to need maritime transportation.
How do we operate from the sanctuary and the sovereignty of the sea? Now, when we thought of that, we were talking about off a foreign shore without a permission slip. But now, we've exported that here to the United States in CONUS. And so how can we operate from the sovereignty of the sea without doing harm and imposing another liability during a disaster? And that's what we can do. You won't know that we are there unless you ask for us, truly. And then we'll come. And then you'll know, but we bring a lot.